Indo-Hungarian Cultural Exchange Fellowship by UGC. She is on technical committees, advisory boards of national government bodies. She conducts workshops and lectures on the health of menarche girls, menopausal and postmenopausal women. She is actively engaged in gerontological research with a focus on the health of middle-aged and senior women. She is a recipient of Indian Menopause Society's award. She has contributed in the Government of India's 3-volume publication titled People of India. She was invited to conduct workshop at Stanford University, to Salzburg, Austria as a fellow, by WHO to Kobe, Japan, to present a country report on women and health in old age. She was invited to organize and chair a session on feminization of aging and gender issues in Kunming, China, in an international symposium at Melbourne, Australia. Apart from all these, she has published few books, supervises PhD scholars, and is a visiting professor in select universities. Words are not enough to introduce Dr. Amrita Bagga, as her contribution in education and research are immense. I just tried to summarize. I once again welcome you, ma'am.
I thank you so much, my dear. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
But I have lost the window where I have connected to you people.
No, ma'am, we can see you.
सिस्टम पे नीचे एक आइकन आ रहा होगा.
हाँ, कौन सा वाला आइकन? जूम का दिख ही नहीं रहा मुझे.
मैम एक जूम का कैमरा बना हुआ आइकन रहता है, उसको क्लिक करते हैं तो विंडो आ जाती है वापस.
हाँ, वो I have lost कनेक्ट हुआ था, सब कुछ आ रहा है, वही मैं देख नहीं पा रही. जूम तो दिख गया.
एक ग्रे कलर का विंडो होगा मैम, आइकन होगा ग्रे कलर का जिसमें कैमरा बना होगा.
ग्रे कलर में
जी.
कैमरा बना होगा मैम.
कैमरा तो
वीडियो कैमरा.
मैं गलत जगह पे आ गई हूँ. आपका जो वेबसाइट है ना, इस पे आ गया, पता नहीं कैसे.
ओह अच्छा.
अमित जी आप हेल्प करिए मुझे.
मैम आप ऐसा करें, आप पहले सब कुछ मिनिमाइज कर दीजिए.
अच्छा.
अपने सिस्टम पे आप सब कुछ मिनिमाइज कर दीजिए.
हाँ जी, कर दिया.
हाँ, अब जो नीचे बार चल रहा है,
हाँ जी,
उस बार में आप देखें, एक तो आपका इंटरनेट का लोगो होगा, गूगल का.
हाँ हाँ.
उसके पास में ही राइट हैंड साइड में एक कैमरे का आइकन बना होगा.
कैमरे का आइकन. कैमरे का इससे खोल.
कार्टून बुक्स में जैसे सेइंग का होता है ना मैम, वैसा ग्रे कलर का सेइंग का होता है, उसके बीच में कैमरा बना होता है.
या वहां पे एक एरो जैसा बना होगा जिसपे आप जब जाएंगी, एक कर्सर रखेंगी तो वो बोलेगा शो हिडन. शो हिडन
वही हाइड हो गया है.
हाँ,
because I am connected, otherwise you see here.
हाँ, आप दिख रही हैं. शो हिडन आइकन्स करके.
I am very sorry.
ओके मैम, वापस रिकनेक्ट करें. आप
रिकनेक्ट करूं जूम खोल के?
जी मैम, आप इससे
खुला ही हुआ है. इसको फिर एग्जिट करूंगी ना?
हाँ, इससे आप लीव करें एक बार और फिर
एक बार डिस्कनेक्ट करूंगी ना सर?
या मैम.
दिस टाइम्स ओपन जूम मीटिंग्स. ओपन.
जितने भी छोटे आइकन से उनको पहले बंद कर दीजिए मैम.
नो, इट इज आस्किंग मी जॉइन न्यू मीटिंग. लीव एंड जॉइन कर दो.
Ma'am, I'll remove you from the meeting and then you rejoin using the link that you have got.
लिंक से बड़ा लंबा काम हो जाएगा. इससे लिंक से ही कर रही हूँ अभी मैं. लीव एंड
शुभी मैडम हेल्प करिए थोड़ा फोन पे बात करके मैडम को.
Yes sir, yes sir.
Yeah.
Till then, let me introduce second speaker.
Yeah.
Our second speaker, resource person is Dr. Rita Sonawat, former coordinator, NEC for third and second cycle, former dean and head of Department of Human Development, SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. She has a vast experience in the field of early child care and education. She has worked in various academic and administrative committees under Government of India. She has many lifetime membership in professional bodies. She received many awards for her work. She was also nominated to lead the delegation of early years educators by Early Childhood Association to Italy and Germany. She was selected as IVLP scholar by Bureau of Education, USA. She visited many countries for her work, like Uganda, Canada, China, Kenya, Malaysia, and many more. She has a vast research and training experience in her career. I once again welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shilpa.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I am introducing our chairperson of the session, Dr. Namit Gupta. Dr. Namit Gupta is Dean Faculty of Engineering and Architecture, Director, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Technology and Science, and Professor, Electronics and Communication, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. He has an experience of more than 26 years. His areas of research are quantum computing, embedded system, sprintonics, 5G communication system, etc. He has been awarded one patent in his name. 2 candidates have been awarded PhD under his supervision, and 7 other scholars are pursuing PhD under his supervision. He has published and presented more than 50 research papers in journals and conferences of national and international repute. Now, I would like to hand over the session to our chairperson, Dr. Namit Gupta. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Shilpa madam. I hope I am audible and visible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So at the outset, I would like to once again welcome on behalf of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya our today's guest speakers, Dr. Amrita Bagga and Dr. Rita Sunawat. Probably Dr. Abhilasha Singh will also be joining us in a short while from now. So in absentia, I welcome her also. As the whole topic of this conference is that emerging perspectives in social sciences and the opportunities and challenges, we can very well see that any ideology does not exist in a vacuum. No, any ideology takes birth, flourishes, and then develops in geographical, socio-political, historical, and cultural background of the country. And cultural heritage, civilization, values, convention, beliefs, all other things, these things have a very greater impact on the social sciences of any country. In India also, our history, our culture, our civilization, our values, they are all taken into consideration. They make they have a great impact on the social science of the country. And social philosophy of any country, including India, gets developed and gets the shape among culture, civilization, conventions, and environment of that particular region. Hence, when we talk about the philosophy of social sciences, when we talk about the emerging perspectives in social sciences, in particular of a country like India, which is, we know, हमारे यहाँ एक कहावत है कि हर थोड़ी देर पे पानी और बानी दोनों बदल जाता है. So considering the philosophy of social sciences in a country like India, we have to consider the values, the customs, the conventions, and the culture. So all in all, the perspectives, the challenges, and the opportunities which are there in the field of social science are playing a major role, because social sciences are not only limited to one particular domain. It actually hits each and every domain. That is what I feel. I, being an engineering teacher, I understand that social sciences or the social philosophy of the region, of the country, of the state becomes very important. So to begin with, this is what I have to say as an introductory note. And now we have 3 wonderful speakers waiting for us. So without taking much time in between, I would like to request our first speaker, Dr. Rita Sunawat, to please share her experience with us. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Shilpa. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Bagga. And a very, very special thanks to Dr. Bharti Geete. Because of her, I am with all of you, I can say. And sir, you have given a very interesting introductory remark, Dr. Gupta, when you talked about our culture and our traditions and our context from where we are coming from. And here, Bharti is a very good example, I can say, because she was once long back my student, and after that, so many years have passed, but she still remembered me. So that is what I can say reflect our culture and our civilization. So thank you, Bharti, for inviting me, and thank you, Dr. Shilpa, for introducing me in quite a detailed way. The topic which I thought I'll be speaking is some part I have taken from NEP, because NEP has very strongly proposed life skills, and some part I have taken from last 2 years when we were in the COVID time and we had a very tough time. So that is a mental health. So these two things I thought of, I'll be just joining together and making some of my arguments. So the first argument which I'm trying to make in front of all of you is, as all of us we know, and it is a very well-known fact that in India, those who, and sir is from engineering fraternity, so he knows in India to get admission in IIT is so difficult. And even if I have to talk about Dr. Narayan Murthy, he has also said in his one of the interviews, my son has not got his admission in IIT, so I have to send him to America to study in the league universities. So it shows a lot that getting admission in IIT is so tough, even in American university, and that too is league universities like Harvard and Boston, and is easier than to get in IIT. That is what Dr. Narayan Murthy's statement. So why I have given that statement is it has a relationship with the mental health. So after competing so strongly with to get admission, so these are people who are, I can say, cognitively very, very strong. And second thing, they are hardworking people, because only intelligence is not helping to get into the IIT. With that, you need to have a hard work also. And I don't know how many nights they were awake and how much support the family has given to them when they were preparing for their IIT. This was my case. Now, what is bothering me is when I listen to some reports, after studying in IIT 2 years, some of the students, they commit suicide. So that is a very, very tough to accept that why it is happening, because one place it is very difficult to get admission. Secondly, they have cleared their second year also, it is fourth semester they have cleared. And after that, it's so tough for them emotionally to continue with the same kind of atmosphere, same type of education, or maybe same, whatever the crises and conflicts are there in everybody's life. Crises and conflicts are there. And sir talked about social sciences. We in humanities and social sciences work very hard to give the importance of society and interaction and how to help yourself. But here, this is another area of education where they are not able to support themselves, and they have to take this kind of action, which is very tough for us. So for that, I thought we need to understand that emotional regulation and emotional language, or EQ is so important. I'm not saying IQ is not important, because I have seen many of those who give talk on emotional quotient, they say EQ is more important than IQ. I'm not saying that. IQ is also equally important, but with that, EQ is also very much important. Then second argument which I will like to give here is during the Corona time, when there were uncertain time. So everybody has faced that time. And there were some people, those who have used this time in writing books and developing their whatever passion they have developed that passion, or they have started their entrepreneurship. Some of them, they have started their business online. So this is one aspect which has happened. But with that, there is another aspect. Some people, there were people, it is very difficult for them to be like emotionally helping themselves in this isolated environment. So mental health is affected because people have had anxieties, people have stress, people have depression, and after the COVID was over, then also they were not able to do the job. So there are a number of people here, a good number of people who after COVID have not had courage to go and work in a working place. Till work from home was there, they could continue with work. But once they were called in a office space, then it was very difficult for them to work. And that stress was, the psychiatrist in Mumbai, if you listen to their YouTube talks, they are very clearly, Dr. Harish Shetty is saying, earlier I used to have in one day 50 to 52 cases. Now I am having more than double cases. So after the lockdown, the cases of mental health has increased, and that is because of no support of life skills they had. And the third argument which I want to give you is, which is coming from the adolescence. So adolescent is a stage and age where they like to be part of the friends, and it's normal to be with the peers, with the friends. There are psychology of friendship, and there are so many scientific papers are written on the psychology of friendship. And Dr. Bukovsky from Canada, he is a specialization in that, and he said the friendship is very, very important component in a adolescent stage. But this is a time when, because of lockdown, staying at home, they couldn't meet friends, they couldn't, interaction was also like staying in a family. It is very hard to have a longer interaction because you are on the mobile and you are seen by the parents, seen by your siblings. So you cannot talk the way freely you were talking with the friends. So adolescents are another, I can say, stage and age where they have also affected. So what I'm trying to tell with these three case studies or three scenarios, that mental health is the issue which needs to be somehow mental health is the issues which is somehow we need to understand, and for that life skills are very important. So as a sir has rightly said, I like the Dr. Gupta's introductory line. Being an engineer, he understands the value of culture and context in which you are living. So right now we are again going back, I can say, after the lockdown, because we have valued the society and neighborhood and understanding the neighborhood. So here we need to somehow, as an educational institution, have a bigger responsibility to develop in our students empathy and creativity, and they need to have a mentor. And this mentor, if you are giving in a college time and a university time, this mentor stayed with them for longer time. Now, Bharti and me, our relationship is after 20 years we are meeting again, but we are meeting as if yesterday we were together. So because the mentoring or mentee relationship was so good and so strong that still if Bharti has some problem, she can easily talk to me. If I have something to say, I also talk to Bharti. So like this, we need to have a grooming, and their students need to have mentor in their student life. And creativity is again very important, because if you are so much into your engineering and so much into management or academics or cognitive, what happened to your creativity? Because out of thinking, out of box is so important in any of the job. So innovations are coming from the creativity, but we don't really, we always, as a university, because I was dean in the university, so I know we have, everything is very symbolic. So this competition is symbolic, that competition is symbolic, and those who are good into dance, good into drama, they are taking part, and then it's over. But we don't really promote very systematically these programs as a part of our university system. So where we talk about, one of the student has very clearly, very nicely said when we talked, when I spoke about art and music and dance, and I said, why, I don't know, people, they don't enjoy Kathak, Manipuri. So she said, madam, do you know, when we go for the modern dance, that is very easy to do it. But when we go to the this traditional dance, any kind of dance, then the first thing is they're very expensive to join. And it requires a lot of time. So with our education, it is very difficult to do it. So that has told me, okay, we should have this kind of program as a part of our university system. And that I have seen in Banasali Vidyapeeth, because Banasali Vidyapeeth is a women's university, and I have seen Bharatnatyam, Kathak, Manipuri. They have a graduation, post-graduation, PhD, as well as hobby. If an engineering student or management student want to join these kind of dance program, that they also can join. So if it is a part of your institution, then it is possible to do it. Why I'm saying like this? Because this is the thing, when you learn, then your question which you raise in your especially student life, when you say, who am I? So answer is, when you have an answer, I'm a poet, or I'm a singer, or I'm a dancer. If you have, I'm a player. If you have an answer of this, then you can say like you are a very healthy person, and you will see these are the people who will be successful also. But the one who have no answer, who am I? And they're very confused about it. They don't have a very clear idea about it. These kind of students, they have a majority of the time having mental health issues. And the data, if you want to collect, then the best place to collect the data is if you go to Goa. That is a place where you will be finding so many youth. They are confused from their life. And they are the one who are trying to find out the identity. So this kind of identity needs to be established when the sorry.
Ma'am, you can have a glass of water. You can take a 2 minutes break.
Actually, I am sitting in the NCRT office, somebody's office. Oh, thank you so much. So if it is part of our program, then I think so it will definitely help adolescents to develop their own identity. And once the identity is established, then and mentor-mentee relationship established, then they will not have this kind of problems which right now India is facing. And since I have gone to that direction of Goa, and I know there are 3 places. If you see Urta Punjab, they have given the story differently about the drugs and all. And if I come to Mumbai, who may have given right now a big story on how the film industry has all these things very casually used, and it has an impact on the young generation. And third is a Goa city. So I know Indore is a very civilized and cultural city, and maybe Indore is safe from all these problems. But if you see, for example, India, then this is a very big issue that since there is no identity established and no mentorship is there, friendship is also not very close. So the impact is going very fast into the alcohol, drugs, smoking. It's a very, very common, and it has, I will not say particular class, or I will not say the family is not sanskari. I've seen a family where the sanskar is there, family people have given sanskar, and very good atmosphere, highly educated family, good environment family, but children have gone into this kind of line. So it shows that nurturance is an issue. There is family plays a significant role, no doubt about it. But institution also has a role. University also has a role. And that somehow, because the friends are coming from there, majority of the time the students are spending in the institution. So they also need to have certain this kind of responsibility, I feel. Then this is a time when the risk taking much more. I went to Dubai, and one of the conferences, education minister said, we need to do something for our adolescent because they are in a suicidal track. I didn't understand the meaning of that. Then at the tea time, I went to him and I said, so you have said this sentence, and what is the meaning of it? He said, our adolescent, the way they drive, roads are very good, cars are good, but the way they drive, as if they're not worried about their life. So now we are also going to those kind of roads where the roads are really getting better and better. Our highways are getting better and better. Our cars are getting better and better. So what I'm trying to say, they are a risk taker. So one example I've given, so they can take risk anyway. They don't have any idea about how things can harm them. So that is another thing. So we need to give, since they are risk takers, so their life skills has to be given to them. And then I will like to say here is which is very, very important, is entrepreneur. Because in the lockdown, I have seen some of my students, because they are also in a late adolescent stage, but lockdown, I've seen some of my students, they have started making certain things, and online started selling. So they have become that entrepreneur. And I was so happy when I saw this kind of courses. Even in NEP is also talking about these courses. So so that is also another area to somehow financial management and entrepreneurship. These kind of courses, not to the only MBA student, but those who are learning psychology, sociology, languages, they should also be having this kind of exposure to subjects. So what I'm trying to say here with this is very clearly that you need to really give life skills to our students. And if we are giving these life skills, can you see the presentation? So here, if you give the life skill, because the WHO is also talking about positive behavior and growth mindset. UNESCO is also talking about physical and mental well-being is so important. So these are UN organizations, they are addressing adolescent because they understood the peer relationship and romantic interest are very, very important in this age and stage of life. So with that, if we are giving them the life skills, then we can save them. So these are certain issues by which why it has become a very difficult stage. So here, identity crisis they are not able to manage their emotions. Even relationships are issue to them because they don't know if the relationship is broken, how to handle that situation and how to mend that relationship. So that also, one of my student, she told me that, ma'am, I don't want to, she was working with me only in one of the corporate houses after retirement when I joined. So she said, madam, I don't want to work because I don't agree with what my boss has told me. So I said, what is your problem? No, ma'am, it hurt me. Huh? So I asked her, okay, he said it is hurted you, and now you'll go home. After going home, do you think so nobody will hurt you in your house? So this is a small statement given by one person to another person. And she said, yeah, if I stay at home, it can happen. So why not here? So what I'm trying to say, building relationship is again so important. Then peer pressures are everywhere. It's on the adolescent stage. Later on, these pressures are in the corporate houses also. When the students are working in the corporate sector, industrial sector, these pressures are working so hard on them, and this pressure is converted into the stress and anxiety, and they don't know where to go with the stress and anxiety, how to solve this stress and anxiety problem, because the reaching to the psychiatrist and to the counselor is still a stigma in our country. So that is another issue which is many times a problem. Here what I will suggest here, that we need to work on a mental health issue where we can talk about that if stress is there, if your interaction problem is there, then also you can just consult the counselor, consult third party, and third party can give you the result. So these are certain issues I can think, and that's the reason I again submit my argument by saying that for the mental health issues, life skill, if given to the adolescents in our college days and university days, till masters, because they are the one who are listening to the professors, they are listening to the university, they are ready to take part in the university system. So we need to have a curricular, extracurricular, and continuous professional development program in our universities, so our mentors, mentee both develop for the betterment of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful talk from your side. Moving forward, I would like to now request our second speaker, Dr. Amrita Bagga, to please share his expertise with us. Ma'am. Please unmute yourself, ma'am. Yeah.
Dr. Gauri, can you please start sharing my screen? Before that, very good afternoon to the chairperson, Dr. Gupta, and the invited guests and dignitaries present in the audience, our staff of this prestigious university, and as well as my student friends. A very happy afternoon to all of you. Post-lunch session is usually dragging. I don't know how you are feeling. Dr. Gupta is laughing. Manji Gupta sahab, kitna time denge aap mujhe?
25 minutes, ma'am.
Yeah, we have to adjust for the last time. And doctor, this girl is there. Share screen open karna tha. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. You'll have to
open it again.
click on the share screen option. Yes, that's right.
As you
and
can
now
see,
you may press F5 for slideshow.
No, I'll continue like this. I'll go quickly.
All right, no problem.
Yeah, quicker than the
Yes.
screen is visible to you all. So the title, before I would say wasting little more time, I will save on that. It is about the topic of tribes, why they are on the crossroads. There are many factors, and there is a reason for, you must be wondering why there are elderly all around here. Now, if you see when we talk of tribals, India comes only second on the world map. Number one is the African subcontinent, because the tribals constitute the oldest ethnographic sector anywhere in the world. They subside simple ways of living, and they subside on hunting, fishing, food gathering, and very simple primitive form of agriculture. And there is a subgroup of the particularly vulnerable tribes, and they are especially affected, and the category has been made special for this. They are actually they have a basic, they share in general the basic unity in thought and philosophy, all tribal groups, wherever they are. You may see the cultural difference, dress patterns, and a lot of variation. I'll show you some pictures for that. But they share philosophy to life to a large extent. Maharashtra has, from where I am speaking, about 10% of population in the tribal map, and MP has about 15%. And here, demographically speaking, I want to make one point here. All age groups, if you see in India, male to female ratio has been very close with lesser number of females. But when you see the 60 plus group, there is a lot of difference. There is a change of scenario. There are more number of women than men. And here it is 5%. This is 2011 census. Coming to the globalization, its impact on the tribals in the, mainly we are talking of India. It is simply said that globalization, or the global village, global world, but it has a deep meaning. You see, industrialization, where the multinationals are putting up factories near around or on the, I would say, outskirts of villages and tribal areas, wherever they find resources and cheap labor. Urbanization is increasing as a result of that. Migrations, of course, because of migrations, urbanization, you can see that all are linked, and ultimately modernization. And as somebody has mentioned in the morning session about the identity crisis in the tribals, at this point of time, I will give one example where I have done some fieldwork earlier. That was Ambegaon Dimbe Dam was being built. We reached with the students there for 20 days trip. There was a serious occupational crisis there. Mahadev College, the main livers there, they were scattered in pockets from 50 miles from the place they were living, they were inhabited. Now they say that the soil over there where they were living earlier in Ambegaon, it was more congenial to making the bricks, which they have been traditionally doing now. And here the soil does not give into this kind of pressure, so they are jobless, workless rather, and the modes of feeding the family are lost to them. Such kind of protests and movements are plenty, because once they have basic little education and their awareness they have, and they have, life is really, I would say, puts you in a crisis, they are moved to tribal force the protests and followed by the movements. Migration, plenty of studies have been shown by, there is one from my department on MITES, find that increase in diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular diseases among the tribal. Who had heard it ever? And mental health is now coming up in a big way. When the tribals move to the neighboring areas, they are actually rapidly assimilating the main living way of the locals nearby. They almost hide their identity. I had a colleague in my university who was a Mahadev Kohli, must have retired now. He never, I would say after a long time, I came to know he's a tribal. What is a simple living, simple people trusted, could be trusted. So migration of youth, when it happens, which is happening mainly with the youth, why the elderly will migrate, they leave behind their culture, their traditions, their very own identity, and also their elderly persons. And they find the elderly's role more useful in the villages, in their hometowns. Very old and ill, disabled, all dependents are, along with very young children. Now, earlier, one economist has said, earlier it was feminization of farming, when only the young men would migrate and all women would do the farming. So feminization of farming is a term coined at that time. And now when I go to villages, this was the reason for me to actually take up this project, emeritus project. Graying of farming is now so visible. Outside the houses, old persons slogging, guarding their houses with a long nut they have in hand, danda, keeping the dogs away, keeping the other nuisance elements away, and guarding their livestock as well as the young children. And the graying of farming scenario is what hit me hard, because they have to not only do the farming, they have to look after the young children and also mainly the women, and they have the double burden. So forces of modernization is naturally happening after the shifting. Two reasons. Now it is the for the better jobs and also the education of children. So they take with their families. Young children, I would say the young children, they leave behind, a little grown-up children, they take along for education. And on top, they are grabbing the fast food habits. So the change in equation of their health scenario has changed. My experience, the recent fieldwork I have conducted is among the Mahadev Kolis, Thakars and Pardis. The three groups, first two groups at Junnar and Pardis in Malchingi, near Kolhapur. And also two groups I took out of my greed, because I wanted to really compare the north population, Lahul from Lahul and Spiti, they have moved to Kullu. Seasonal movement, I went in September and I could meet them and I could do the report. Following the WHO guidelines, I focused more on health and by judgment of their other treatment in general by the families and as well as the community members. Demographic changes has shown that how elderly population has increased. Every census is adding to at least 10%, 10 crores of the tribal population. And this important factor, I have earlier also shown feminization of housing. You can see that females are increasing in number in older age groups and males are decreasing. There are many factors. Ask ourselves, and the world is researching why women are living longer. One of the main reasons, if young students are listening, marriageable students, thing is, we arrange marriages largely, that is what happens in our country. They have age difference is very well accepted among the males as well as the females at the time of marriage, the spousal difference. And the XX chromosome in women give the longevity better grades. And latest is grandmothering effect of the women, the role of grandmothering that makes emotional impact on women's living. If you see the traditional role of the elderlies, they were well respected, they were heads of the families, and it used to be the central value of the tribal society in general, these two factors. And they acted as advisors, sources of wisdom, knowledge, and well-wishers of the whole community and the family as well. They were known for rich experience in solving problems. There are many examples, but I would not take up the examples now because time is limited. Status and role has been again and again defined, and we have remnants of this in our rural population and even city population. Nothing dies forever. Little bit is left in the community, the remnants, it tells us. And also, as I said, they acted as watchdogs for the well-being of the families, communities. Earlier, they used to have softer roles. This is all from a review of literature. They would be assigned with the softer roles, selecting the name of the newborn in the family, giving respect. And the other is, say, for example, hair cutting, first hair cutting of the tribal child when the is born in the family. This respect is assigned to the eldest male member of the family. So the idea is the point I am making is it is integration within the families. So this was part of it. Now, if you see the attitude of the family and community towards them is, I would say, not of respect and I would say, I would stop at respect. Tolerance is the term better used, and this word has been used by the senior elderlies themselves. Most of the elderly interviewed said that nobody paid any heed to them and their problems. But everywhere it was not there. Lahuli and Pangis, they respect the elderly and they have a special place for them. Now, when we are just watching by these simple basic needs of the human being, the food, shelter, and now I am not talking of clothing, it is health. As far as food and shelter is concerned, they sleep outside the hut only, always, weather changes and all that. And young family lives inside. They continue to guard day and night. Health, many of them compromised. Many of them have been complaining. Lot of distress, dissatisfaction that they are of no use because nobody has time for them. No money and no care and no medicines for them. Feminization, this is one village, Kelly in Junnar, 2 men, they are small hamlets, 7-8 families maximum. So here you see 2 men versus 4 women, double the number. You can see the ratio of males and females. And below here, this is an old lady of 92 who cooked food for us. We're there for 4 days. This is the daughter. We have in India sanomania. Dr. Usha Bambawale mentioned sanomania. She coined this term that why we Indian women have a mania to have a son. This lady has born 2 sons, but this old lady has born only daughter. Now, who is looking after her? And her 2 sons have moved to the neighboring towns. So why we have the need for having a son, and we have lovely daughters also. So here there are 2 men and 5 women. You can see the ratio. Feminization has invaded, and it is the same trend world over what is happening in urban areas and rural areas and tribal areas. This examples from Pardi at Mulshingi with the Tribal Research Institute. Say help I with that. And this Pardi settlement was, which I visited, was actually initiated by Sahuji Maharaj because these group are hunters and trap makers. They would accompany the Maharaj when he used to go for hunting expeditions. The land was allotted long back, they could not vacate. Government had given earlier long back some aid in 80s. Some have built pakka houses, many are in the periphery. I interviewed most of them. This is a blind old lady, not much to it. And everybody, no significance of my life, no importance in the family. And these are ageistic comment in the English language, we call it. And the attitude is, Kaam ka na kaaj ka, dushman anaj ka. This is the common saying there. They are going for work on the outskirts of Mushingi. Some urban families are there who give them little bit work to look after or do the household utensils and cleaning. And they get their food. This is the situation. This is a childlessness in old age. This is the first wife of this gentleman who married thrice. She could not bear any children. Long story. Second wife also, she died. But she was throughout complaining, crying, but continuously her hands working, whether it is weeding cleaning the grains or cleaning the vegetables or doing the household work. She had no time. We followed her around because I found the case very, I would say, different. But she was muttering all the while, cursing to herself for being barren and why God has given her such life. Why that there is no end to her life. I want to die. She says, I cannot call these children my own. They don't understand. It's I'm their anybody, any relationship, or they owe me anything. My husband is not mine. Even villagers have started ignoring me. Neglect of the very old. Here you can see, this was my focus of the work. If you see, this is a cow shed. Buffaloes and cows are in front and she's at the far end. And this is a paralytic woman who could move now a little bit on one leg, other one does not work. She drags herself to the fields and there was cow dung in front. Suppose she slips and falls. I went inside and spent some time with her, interviewing her, and then I measured her blood pressure. It was 209/108. You can imagine systolic blood pressure, and she was not aware. The young man is living, she was awarded under Indira Awas Yojana, a house, neighboring, just adjoining to this wall. And there the young family, her son and the family lives there. And this is her house. And she has moved here, or she has been moved here. The sun could not meet our eyes. And he avoided our gaze. And she says, what role in my son's family? I have no role to play. So this is the plight. I am showing you all this because I have been, as a gerontologist, and doing a lot of work and presenting all over India. My projects, my books, initial 3 books have been on this source. When I talk to the organizers and the people present there, the well-educated people, even help and people, and also other this wherever this session, seminars where I'm invited. Thing is, they say no, tribal area mein kya problem hai? Wahan koi kaam nahi. With great difficulty, tribals have been put up in the census, and even now when you see the report, they are clubbed with the urban population, while they have a different remote living areas, not accessible easily, sometimes mountainous, and sometimes it is quite far removed, no water, no electricity in some of them. Now here you see the son, this is 86-year-old man who was constantly, this is not the son, by the way, this is my research assistant, and his wife is there. He complained constantly, do something, my son beats me. He wants me to sign papers, he'll transfer his land, my land and house, in his name, and he's a drunkard. That will be the end of the property of my grandchildren. So careless attitude of the youth is very prominent here. And this man also, I think I will, sorry. This Shankran, I remember his face. His mother works in 3 houses to make her living. He has every gadget I have in my house. And he could not, 3 sons she bore, and nobody is supporting him. And when you see the register and talk to the village party, he says, koi disputes nahi, koi property, we are all comfortable and all. But there are heartening examples which gives the simplicity, peep into the simplicity of the village life also. This is a paralyzed man, and this is his elder brother, who is they would call him Marathi Yeda. They would call him, the boys were teasing him, children running after him, throwing ball around him. And he is incontinent, but see here, he has a diaper made by his sister-in-law, which helps him to take care of himself and feeds him well. And she does a household work. She has such young children. Elder one was in 9th standard. She tends to the fields, 2 men to support, and tends to the fields as well as looks after the house. What pathetic state when government is not giving much aid or people are not aware. Now, on the other spectrum, like I said, there are heartening examples of Lahulis and Pangi tribals in Himachal. And it was such an eye-opener of giving a peep into our past. How the parents were revered, grandparents were taken care of. I would say care was extremely good. And I came across some people, some of their grandmothers who are living there, 2 of them, men I could not see. One of the reasons I have pointed out even these settlements of Thakars and Mahadev Kolis in Maharashtra was the economic difference. Money speaks. If they have no money, where will they take their parents? And here, this is a Lahuli family. This is the head of the family, Dr. Rawal. He is the superintendent of the civil hospital in Kullu. And his parents are no more, but his elder sister is given prestigious place in the family, who could not be married for some reason. Hypertensive and very highly diabetic. Food habits have changed. Many of them were BMI was very high. And I would say analysis shows that they continue to eat heavy food, but with education, they are into the urban living, modernization. They are all over. Himachali boys are now, you see, the girls also, air hostesses, persons in this thing, but food habits have not changed much. They continue to have that rich food. Inside a Pangi household, they are well off. You can see the walls of wood. And this was a lady, and a Pangi woman with a dainty cap and the earrings. And this is another family. This woman had a fracture thrice. This is 3rd time she was to be admitted in hospital, and she seems to be a case of osteoporosis. And this is a young grandson who is an engineering student. They deserved because they are tribals, but they work very hard. They are known to be very hard people, the Lahulis and Pangis. Pang is less than Lahulis. And this woman is here because the newly married daughter-in-law should not be alone. She's a school teacher. She guards the house. They transported her from Lahore. And some pictures with them, you can see, and very pleasant and lively. The daughters-in-law do not allow them to enter the kitchen. And they feel useless here. They want to go to the fields to work in the Lahore areas. Common diseases, health scenarios, you see, maternal and child health is very poor. Diseases of seasonal diseases are quite common. There is a change in scenario. Adolescent, as somebody presented in the paper in the session in the morning on anemia, adolescent girls, analysis showed that they were highly anemic and young mothers, very highly anemic. Middle-aged, their lifestyle is changing and there increase in the frequency of certain diseases. Elderly persons have multiple problems, health issues. We can understand they have all elderlies at home, vision affected or hearing affected or urinary infections, urinary incontinence, and they can't control urinary bowels, incontinence and arthritis, breathing issues, and surprisingly high rate of diabetes, hypertension, and most of them are unaware. There are some 1 or 2 cases, they have been fortunate to be have been diagnosed with this. If you see mistreatment to them, physical violence, rare, as I gave you one case. Economic cases of property, I have given you one example. Negligence is there of the elderly, and denying them the right to treatment is the crime, I must say. And you have heard of you, many of you, that Kumbh Mela mein, how many elderly are left behind. I have recently evaluated a thesis on the women of Rishikesh, Kashi, and it has been found. I visited also, by the way, there. And so many of them interviewed. Most women said the families have left. Few only of them, they voluntarily came, very small number of them. What are the challenges? Coming आपका thesis इसका seminar का भी issue है. What are the existing state? And now I am talking of issue, these challenges in the last slide. Now, world over, it has been identified by United Nations, also WHO also. It is more than malnutrition. It is undernutrition. They are surviving on 1 or 2 meals a day, not 3 meals a day, and that also very little in the food. So malnutrition comes second. First, that bellies have to be filled. For these tribals I am talking about. Pregnant women, young children, and young girls, especially they need to be taken care of. First of all, because they are women, they have to take care of the children. Cooking for them, education is important. Illiteracy is rampant, and also they lack healthy practices. With efforts, some the earlier speaker said about the COVID situation, how we have been taught and made efforts of maintaining hygiene to a certain extent. In tribal areas, unfortunately, they clean the house, such beautiful houses, but just outside their area of house, they dump their garbage. This is unfortunate. Change of attitude is possible with little effort. So attitude of the elderly interviewed, the main word was, they just say, क्या करना है, पैसा लगेगा, बेटे का काम का दिन जाएगा, and मुझे और देख के क्या करना है. They are not even aware that cataract-free camps, if somebody takes them, I spoke to the son, they said, पूरे दिन का कमाई जाएगा, खर्चा बस का अलग आएगा, फिर उनको वहाँ चेकअप के लिए ले जाना पड़ेगा. We can't afford this luxury. So the CAP is a term every social scientist knows. The knowledge, imparting knowledge, attitudinal change, attacking the attitude, and seeing to it that put into practice what is the situation and what they should be gaining from that. So these are the three. And another very important thing is about the traditional way of living. They have their own treatment ways, Vaidus, and all that. I think I have another one. Yeah. Warli art with the traditional people, it is dying. I can understand the hunting and basket weaving, traps making, because this is a banned activity. It's not possible today. But conservation of the sacred groves in villages. tribal areas, where they consider the religious significance, they attach with the religious significance. Actually, it is the medicinal plants which they want to protect, which are useful to them. Generations have told them. Now, this one very important example I'll give. A Chinese famine was there when millions died, 9 millions, if I remember correctly, and they were on a spree of killing all the sparrows because they were spoiling their crop. They were damaging their crop. And by killing the sparrows, millions of sparrows were killed, and it was replaced, nature abhors vacuum. So the sparrows were replaced with the locusts, which sparrows were eating earlier. So the locusts brought such a havoc that there was hardly any food to be consumed by the local population. And disturbance of ecosystem wasted many years. 5 years it took them to bring them to so that's where the tribal knowledge of conservation of plants and other species also, they have to be protected. This is the best example for giving. Now the last slide, you can see here, father-in-law 83 and son-in-law is 81, and wife was, if I remember correctly at that time, I didn't interview her at that time because she was not visible, 35, 40. She was in the fields, and these oldies are sitting outside. And you can see the difference of the husband from wife was how much. This was 81 at that time, 40 years of difference. And you can imagine the life of so much of widowhood we are giving in a platter to our daughters when we marry them off to the older man. Indian context, this makes a lot of relevance because majority marriages take place, arranged marriages. And so that is all, and it is a longer session for me. And thank you so much for patient listening, and you did not interrupt Dr. Namit. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
I tried to cut short. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It was a wonderful session from your side, describing about the major challenges and atrocities of the tribals living in the different part of the country. Moving forward, we have the third speaker with us, Dr. Abhilasha Singh. I would like to request Dr. Abhilasha Singh to please proceed with her talk. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Can I get the privilege to share the screen? Because already
I am sharing. I am now stopping it.
Are you able to see the screen now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Gupta. And it was a real pleasure basically to listening to the speakers. Due to other obligation, I was not able to hear to many of them, but yes, the last two speakers were very interesting. So thank you very much for this opportunity and inviting me to Udgam 2022, which is I presume a 2-day national conference. And the topic is very interesting because it is a very broad theme which you have taken, which is like emerging perspective in social sciences. It's both broad, and I can also say that it is very apt to the point. So I would also like to thank the organizers for choosing such topic and the visionary leaders of Vaishnav Vishwavidyalaya for their very impressive journey. And while exploring your website and learning more about the university, I noticed that the university always highlights the value-based education, so which was very fascinating for me. And because the university values fascinated me, it compelled me to take the topic of academia and SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. So that's why I took this topic. I hope you will find interesting, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you, Bharti, for reaching out to me after a long time. Going further, if we talk about the recent years, that has been very challenging for all of us. Some of the social issues has been raised by the previous speakers as well. Some of the problem with the adolescents has been raised. And with all the dismays that it caused, the pandemic crisis, it allowed the entire humanity actually to reflect on itself, to assess itself. And in a very short time, the entire world started, the world was very apprehensive about itself, about the goals they are setting, about thinking whether they are going to lose their jobs or keep their freedom. It was everywhere. It was like there were challenges. It was a kind of global recession with automation coming up, with dissonance having been there. So we are witnessing currently a very significant transformation in the entire ecosystem of higher education. And in fact, the COVID-19, it caused a major disruption, but it also accelerated the much needed pace of change in education and affected all the critical attributes of higher education, the modus operandi of the institution. It's not wise to say, but I just feel like it was a blessing in disguise. So it compelled us to rethink, being a higher education provider, we started thinking how learning can better contribute to building more sustainable and inclusive societies. And the previous presenter has highlighted as well that part. A society where people are happy, where people are tolerant, they are agile, they are considered as global citizens. So the evolution of people and technology, we know that it plays a significant role across some aspects of the new normal in the years to come. So with this economic tremors, we all are now envisioning the new normal for digital life in future. But basically, there is a global turbulence which we are witnessing. We are witnessing like it's a world of chaos. We were reading a couple of articles. If you read, you will find that the percentage of layoff and the downsizing that has been happening, it's really, really huge. The learners are disengaged. Why the mental health issues are there? Why the drug addicts are there? Why the social issues are there? If you start thinking about it, you will find that what we are offering, maybe the learners are not that engaged. So there is a global turbulence which we are witnessing. And considering the changes that are set in motion by the pandemic and the way the societies are responding, can we predict that these changes will lead to a life in future which is better for most people, or worse for most people, or mostly worse for most people, or perhaps not too much different for most people than the life that was at the time when the pandemic began? So in the past, if we see, we moved from business to knowledge economy to machine economy. And the world gradually started to recover from the two pandemic years, but is still facing some uncertainty in the economic outlook and accelerating disruptions, leading to significant permanent changes to labor market, issues of layoffs, inequality, declining wages. These are some of the commonly noted. There are many. The global population is expected to reach 8.5 billion by 2030. But the world is still struggling to provide simple, basic services which can guarantee anyone a decent life or everyone a decent life. So one of the key social institutions like education needs to transform to not only increase the quality of education system, but also the employability. And the role of higher education institutions in regard to addressing the well-being of nation cannot be negated. So this requires mandatory commitment of higher education to sustainability through well-defined policies and procedures for graduating the graduates who are socially responsive individuals, who are sensitive towards sustainability issues. So the critical role of higher education institution in contributing to the implementation of UN SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, is critical. It has to. We are a part of higher education providers, so I just feel like we have to serve as a catalyst for the education of future, the future leaders. And one of the primary goals of higher education system is to prepare students for workforce. So there is an ongoing debate as to whether the university programs are adequately providing students with 21st century skills or not. So is this rapidly changing workforce our higher education institutions, are they able to constantly adapt to maintain the practical utility of their courses, their programs? So these are the two major questions, like, are higher education providers, HEPs, preparing their students for job market? Or are the HEIs, the higher education institutions, are completely disconnected from the realities and the needs of the global society? So, I mean, what skills you think are required in future? And this is something important. It was an important question. And I mean, I just want you to listen to this video, a short video. I hope that the sound will be clear. Is it clear?
The Brussels Motor Show, the biggest car event in Belgium, where all car brands show off their newest technologies. But it was Volvo who hijacked all the attention, with the first car that could recruit its own technicians. Volvo presents the recruiting car.
Ik ben de HR90. Ik ben op zoek naar onderhoudstechnici voor de Volvo fabriek in Gent.
200 job openings were announced on social media, inviting everyone to come and check out the first car that recruits its own engineers. To conduct the interviews, we tapped into the car's technology.
Welcome, Oliver. Glad to see you put on your blue shirt for the interview. Can you show me where my electric compressor is?
Sure.
Please allow me to play some piano music to make you feel more comfortable. Tell me, why should I hire you?
I've been passionate about by applying AI, we could actually test social and technical skills and make unbiased evaluations of all applicants. These were sent to Volvo's HR managers for further interviews. Changing the conversation from cars to jobs got us national media attention.
Et l'entretien d'embauche sera d'abord mené par un véhicule et par son intelligence artificielle.
70% of all news coverage about the Brussels Motor Show was dedicated to Volvo. More than 1 in 2 Belgians was reached through PR coverage alone, leading to 300% more price requests. And the 200 vacancies, well, they were all filled.
I mean, this was the 200 vacancies they were having. And you can see the way they were filling the vacancy. Are we preparing our graduates for such kind of interviews? Are we preparing them for meeting the demands of the global market? So how the academia is going to address the demands of the industry's talent pool? So that was to just to brief you about this. Just a minute. Yeah. So the pertinent questions which are there, it's important. Like, these are some of the pertinent questions. Are we stuck somewhere? And if the current education system, if it is working, does it require any kind of reformation? The issue is also what we are assessing. You know, we are now, the entire information is available on Google. I still consider my time when I was at Banaras Hindu University and I was doing my bachelor's and then my PhD. And then my master's was from Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya. We were not having Google Guru, which was there. Now all the information is there. So what are we assessing? Are we assessing their CCP skills, the cut, copy, paste skills, or what we are assessing? So the grade-based learning, is it a real measure of success? So these are some of the questions I just feel like all the higher education institutions, they should start thinking about it. And keeping that in mind, the issue here is that should we reimagine the entire process of teaching and learning to accommodate the sustainability issues, you know, the sustainable development goals for a better future? because the mismatch in the labor market needs and skill supply, it has been highlighted again and again and again. You go to any forum, you go to any national policy discussion, you go to any university world news and you start reading about it. They start highlighting the mismatch. So that was one of the key issues which we are noticing. There are do's and don'ts here, but important is teaching the life skills. And I was interested in the presentation. I think Professor Rita, if I'm not wrong, but a professor just before the previous presentation, she was talking about the life skill, and it is so much important, you know. So there are do's and don'ts, but important is teaching them life skills, and let the teaching be student-centric and focused on more critical thinking, more soft skills with more growth mindset, right? So what we are, if we are preparing students for the job, which may not exist in future, right? So what should any higher education institution do to make their students more socially responsible, sensitive towards the sustainable development goals? And here, the concept of lifelong learning is very important. So it has been, see, the concept of lifelong learning is not new. It has been emphasized on numerous occasions. And recently, if you go through the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, that rewired the concept of SDGs with its humanistic origin. So it started emphasizing a lot with its a lot on inclusive and equitable quality education, promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. So lifelong learning is very important here, because we don't know what will be the job scenario in future, but at least we can prepare the graduates in a way that they can survive in that market, right? So this basically provided a very holistic perspective to the concept of lifelong learning. And this covers the entire spheres of life, where education is much more beyond the course registration, where learners are able to learn whatever they want, they choose to learn, regardless of their age, regardless of their formal education, regardless of the reason. So it may be, I mean, any student want to learn maybe just to update their knowledge or their skills or to adapt to the labor market. So this complex, the reality of an incredible transformation in the higher education which is taking place, especially in the student body, is calling for higher education institutions that are resilient institutions. They are very resilient, which can adapt to the market, the global market. And I don't know, I mean, I've been a little bit disconnected from India in the past few years, but higher education institutions globally are witnessing very non-traditional students. I mean, I have a student in my class, I'm teaching organizational development, and I have a student in my class who is 45 years old, married with 2 wives, with children. And, you know, these are the non-traditional students, and we are preparing them for jobs that may not exist. So with this significant transformation in higher education, it is critical that higher education providers are also serving as a center for lifelong learning by diversifying their programs, their course offering, customizing it based on the needs of the global market, I say, global as well as local market for global citizenship. So if I have to quote the World Economic Forum, it estimates that in today's employment market, skills have a half-life shelves of 5 years. So the repercussion for the entire higher education, you can sense that in this context, the lifelong learning for workforce is so important. And then only it can meet the demands of the market. And this basically targets 2 things, 2 different dimensions. On one dimension, there is learner's motivation, his abilities, his, let us say, aspirations, his interest. And on the other hand, the social dimension of learning, like having a strong sense of community. So if the higher education institution wants to unleash the talent of any learner, so people are trained according to their needs and they are able to maximize their potential, then it's very important to strengthen the partnership with the community, with external stakeholders, and to understand the needs of the learner. So our role is to enable learner who can execute their own learning system, you know, their own navigation like you have a Google Maps, and there is a navigation system. So as a learner, I can navigate my own navigation system, right? And I can ensure that I'm getting the right kind of knowledge and skills, which otherwise I will not typically encounter if I'm not navigating my own system. So that's important. I mean, the entire world is, witnessing the fourth industrial revolution. We call it 4IR. And the term itself summarizes the fields like blockchain, artificial intelligence. India is far ahead in technology. Drones, the 3D printing. We are testing here in UAE, the cars without the driver, the flying cars, and the testings are going on. So there is a need for people who can manage this as well. Molecular biotech, for example. I mean, these fields are going to change the entire world's economy. So higher education institutions are required to bring these technologies into their curriculum, so that tomorrow's graduate can bring innovation to their job in the tech-centric workplace of future. So technology will be a significant component of tomorrow's job for sure. And we know that this question is again and again coming, that we are higher education institutions are teaching people for the jobs which may not exist in 2050. So there are, the report, this came in 2020. And if you look at the World Economic Report of WEF report of 2020, you will find a list of the jobs that may disappear, and another list of jobs that are in demand, which are there. So I don't want to go into that detail, but if we have to track the future, then there is an immense need for all of us to contribute to make the education and the learning process resilient. And where learning can take place anywhere, as we discussed, and where certifications, micro-credentials will become crucial for reskilling, where upskilling and reskilling will be the key. So the lifelong learning initiative in higher education will not only contribute to the economy through delivering education, but will also create a learning environment that focuses on personal development. And interestingly, I was reading a report from Coursera. I'm sure you all know about Coursera. It revealed that 89% of the students believe that a professional certificate will help them to stand out to employers. And employers, on an average, they also feel 76% of them, they will hire a candidate with a professional certificate. Now, these all are the new trends. So certifications in collaboration with industry, like we call them nano degrees, that is going to become relevant, which is going to make the learning more job relevant. It will recognize prior learning. It will facilitate accumulation of credit hours, right? So you keep accumulating, and then it will contribute to your degree program. We offered a number of such flexible options to students for their career growth, so that we can enhance their employability and their curriculum as well. So let's talk in the next two slides about the future focus. The future focus of higher education definitely requires sustainable development goals to be integrated into all levels of the institution, so that it can create a sustainable mindset through the institution. So we need basically a sustainable mindset through the institution. That's important. We focus on sustainability education for knowledge transfer and on building a workforce with important traits like leadership, hard work, perseverance, critical thinking, inventiveness. These are the tolerance. And just to give you an example, I'm in a country where we have a ministry of tolerance. We have a ministry of happiness. We have a ministry of impossibilities. And we are teaching, so aligning the university mission with the national, because we are accredited by the Ministry of Higher Education here, to align our mission with the national vision and mission. We are offering the courses in tolerance and happiness. So these traits are so necessary for a sustainable nation. So considering the magnitude of the change which is required in the higher education to reorient its focus on sustainable development, there is a need of structural changes and structural reforms, not only in higher education, but also in the primary and the secondary education, in the basic education, so that the issues of sustainability can be addressed. So part of the sustainability mindset, it requires, it is required in the education at all levels. So, so that it can equip the youth with the global values, the values of fairness, equity, tolerance, empathy, peace, lifelong learning, and life-wide learning. So you are no more that, yes, you have to focus on this particular aspect and become an expert of this. You need now the breadth of knowledge as well, the competency model as well, which I will address in the next slide as well. There is a need for the competency model of education, which we call life-wide learning. And this plays a very instrumental role in ensuring the sustainability at a national level. The role of teachers, the role of faculty members will be just to facilitate discussion with very unsupervised, self-organized learning. No more we can go to the class and expect all the students to stand up and say, yes, good morning, ma'am, or, we are so blessed to have you. The students now these days, they want something to be delivered to them, which they are not able to find anywhere on Instagram, on Twitter, on Google. Then only they will be interested, So they need basically the faculty members to facilitate the discussion with very unsupervised, self-organized learning. So, this is going to be the last slide, but I really am fascinated with this statement of Thomas Frey. He said that if we continue to insert teacher between us and everything else we need to learn, we cannot possibly learn fast enough to meet the demands of the future. Now you can see that probably it states very clearly that fast learning cannot happen easily. It doesn't require imposing a teacher. And I would like to highlight one thing here, that companies like Google, IBM, and we have collaboration agreements with them. They are hiring people based on aptitude with no degree required at times. I have a son, 25 years old, and another son, 30 years old. The younger son, he's 25 years old. He's the youngest one in as a manager in Deloitte in the region. And I keep asking him, please go and do your master's, because we come from that mindset, especially being a faculty, working in the academic affairs for so long. I want him to do his master's. He doesn't want to do. He said, there is no value addition if I do master's. So why? Because the market, you can see that the companies, like such global companies, are hiring based on the aptitude. There is no degree required. So offering an in-house training to the next generation of the employees becomes important. So I believe and I agree that there is an immense need of skill-based education, nano degrees, with strong focus on skills and knowledge, equipping students to deal with the workplace challenges. There's a need for developing a learning compass for the community well-being, so that students, they are focusing. It was very interesting that one of the students who graduated from medicine, and then he said that, no, I want to do MBA. Why you want to do MBA? Because he wants to manage the hospital. And after doing MBA, he's working in a company. Actually, it is basically an NGO. And he just likes, supporting people. So we were happy that how the mindset is changing. Mindset of the student is changing. There is a need to offer very personalized pathways to the student with a very lifelong learning mindset. So the policymakers, they see micro-credential now as a way to provide learners with important opportunities for their academic advancement, for personal development, for upskilling and reskilling. The micro-credential framework has been recognized now as a means to bring greater coherence to the diverse set of short programs, but non-degree programs. across the higher education systems, and even I can say beyond the national borders. So they are recognized by government. Their potential means to support the accessibility of higher education, right? Especially for the groups which are underserved groups. So with this, and with this emergence of micro-credential, the digital qualifications, which is less than a degree, is rooted in an increased demand of quality and digitalized higher education. And it's a growing demand, by the way, for skilled human capital tailored for the industry. So if you look around, there is a wider acceptance of micro-credential these days, right, by the industry, as proof that, yes, you have necessary skills, either it is a supplement or it is an alternative pathway to the traditional college diplomas. Now, I don't want to be very pessimistic and say that the degree programs will not be required in the future. But definitely, I would like to emphasize that within the context of higher education, and enlarging ecosystem of micro-credentials is also raising some concerns over the potential of micro-credential in the career development. So let's capitalize on every opportunity, because it is important for us to address the skill gap crisis, to shape the future of the economy. And it is possible through lifelong learning initiatives. We can address even the issues of SDGs through lifelong learning initiatives. Through such initiatives, the higher education can provide continuous learning to fill the skill gap. So it is pivotal to modernize the entire learning so that we can build the future-ready talent. And if all of us, we are discussing some important topics in a forum, and all the members here are educationists, I presume. So if we all agree and recognize that lifelong learning is a human right, and it is crucial to create resilient societies, then the issues pertaining to partnerships, the entire learning ecosystem should be addressed. The learning ecosystem should integrate this diverse learning modalities of like a blend of formal, non-formal, and informal learning. So with these words, I really thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And I'm here if you have any questions to answer that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. It was a wonderful session today with all three eminent speakers. We are once again very much thankful to Dr. Reena Sonawat, Dr. Amrita Bagga, and Dr. Abhilasha Singh. The session started with Dr. Reena Sonawat. She talked about the NEP and COVID challenges, and she has emphasized on the importance of EQ along with IQ, emotional regulation, language, emotional quotient, along with IQ. She also talked about the COVID difficulties and the pressures, the peer pressures, which students have observed, which students are going through, which everybody is going through in today's time. She was very particular when she was talking about the difficulties of the adolescent age and the peer pressures, especially in the COVID situations or in post-COVID situations. Since she's looking after the NAC and all these things, definitely her emphasis was on mentor-mentee. And she elaborated that mentor-mentee concept wonderfully to us. The relationship between a mentor and mentee, how important it is. And at the end, she talked about the life skill requirement, like mentors, generosity, nurturing, risk-taking, creativity, entrepreneurship, and all those things. So a wonderful talk by Dr. Reena Sonawat. A second speaker today was Dr. Amrita Bagga. A very specific research she shared with us. Students in tribes of the country, tribes on the crossroads, the basic impact on the tribes of the country on because of globalization, industrialization, and migration. So tribal groups of the country from Maharashtra and from Kullu. She gave us wonderful examples of two studies which she has conducted, one in the state of Maharashtra, another in the state of Himachal Pradesh near Kullu. and wonderfully explained to us, also shared with us what are the challenges such as undernutrition, illiteracy, low care level of pregnant women, children, young girls in the tribal belt of India. So, considering that, a large percentage of people in the country living are in the tribal region, that was I feel that that was a wonderful research or a study which has been shared to us by Dr. Amrita Bagga today. Third speaker today, Dr. Abhilasha Singh, very appropriately taken point of the academia and the sustainable development goals which she has talked about. She has talked about the pandemic and the resultant global recession, economic downturn. This has actually caused a global turbulence with 42% layoffs and 50% learners disengaging themselves from the learning. She also talked about the tech advances, that a wonderful video played by her from Volvo of recruiting cars. That is something new. So the question very aptly raised by her, that are the higher education institutes of the country really preparing their students for such type of advancements, for such type of requirements of the global market? So she gave us some solutions also: blended learning, learning anywhere, anytime, problem-based and collaborative learning, and competency-based model of education. One very wonderful term which was coined by her was a nano degree. This is a new thing, I suppose. Doing, improving, taking courses, taking certifications, improving the skills, making oneself more and more industry and job ready is the crux of her talk today. So all three wonderful sessions. I'm thankful to all the three speakers today for joining us and sharing their ideas and wisdom with us. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Shilpa Phadnis.
Thank you, sir. As John F. Kennedy said, we must find time to stop and thank the people who make a difference in our lives. Now, I would like to express my gratitude to all the resource persons, Dr. Amrita Bagga, Dr. Rita Sonawat, Dr. Abhilasha Singh, and chairperson of the session, Dr. Namit Gupta, for sparing valuable time from their busy schedule. I extend my regards for their kind presence and inspiring addresses. Thank you all. A good event never ends. It takes only a pause and keep us waiting for the next. That concludes a great knowledgeable plenary session. Thank you all for patient listening. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.